Hello, welcome back to another fascinating episode of Maniac Math with Mrs. Carell. Make sure you have the right video notes page. Yours should look something like this right here. We'll be talking about writing math expressions. Nope, not this kind of expression. Also, if you're listening right now, there are some clues hidden on the slides. You will have to listen for them because they're only in audio. I'm not going to write them down. But you will need the clue letters. Your first clue letter is the letter L. Write it somewhere on your page. So what exactly is a math expression or a numerical expression? It's just like a statement or a sentence that represents a single value, and it has numbers and operation symbols like the plus, minus, division, and times sign, but not the equal sign. We're not going to go into why there isn't an equal sign right now. You'll get into that probably more next year or in 7th grade. But addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division signs, definitely. Parentheses, sometimes. And no equal sign. Okay, so when we're writing numerical expressions or math expressions, the first thing we need to do is translate things into numbers. So you're going to be looking for some clue words. Oftentimes you're going to get a word problem and it won't have numbers written as numbers. It will have numbers written as words. It will have other things in there written as words, and it's your job to figure out, do I divide, subtract, add, multiply? I don't know. Well, we're going to go over some clue words that you need to look for that will help you figure out what you need to do in a math problem. All right, so addition. How do you know if they want you to add? Well, some very simple way to start with that is the word sum, because sum is the answer to an addition problem. Also, the word plus. You've been hearing that word for many years by now. So if you say 6 plus 5, you know that you would write it 6 plus 5. If they said give the sum of 6 plus 5, in order to solve that, you would still have to write a 6, a plus sign, and a 5. Some other clue words you need to be aware of. Increased. If I were to increase 6 by 5, I am adding. Increased means to add. More than. 5 more than 6 would be the same as 6 plus 5. Total. So the total of 6 and 5. That's another clue word to let us know, probably adding. Also added to, add or added to, those obviously mean adding. Altogether, that's another clue phrase that means addition. In all usually means addition. Let's see, raised, there's another one. 6 raised by 5 would be 11. Let's see, what else is there? Increased, more than, I think I got most of them. If you come up with any more, please let me know, but you have a little more space to write some down. Your next clue letter is the letter E. All right, now we're going to do some clue words for multiplication. And you might be wondering, why did Mrs. Carell go from addition to multiplication? Usually teachers go addition, then subtraction, then multiplication, then division. Well, multiplication is a fast way of adding. So if I had 352 groups of 5 kids, I don't want to sit around and write the number 5 352 times. That would be a lot of times to write the number 5 and then add them all up. What I could do is I could do 352 times 5, and you don't have to write this down, and that would give me the number that I needed without adding 352 fives. Yes, you could write 352 5 times and add all of that stuff up, but again, that's a lot of work. I'm still not done writing this. By now, I could have been done with this multiplication problem up here. So multiplying is a very quick way of adding, and that's why we do multiplication right after addition, because they are similar. All right, some ways to know that they want you to multiply. Well, the first one is product. That is a big clue word in your word problems. Product. Factor times factor equals product. So 6 is a factor, 5 is a factor. When we multiply them together, we get the product of 30. Factor, factor, product. Product is the answer to a multiplication problem. Well, let me see, what else might we have? We might have the words multiply. That's pretty straightforward. Multiply 6 times 5. Or they might ask, what if you multiplied, as in past tense, 6 times 5? Still the same thing. They might also say, what is twice 6? Twice 6 would be that. Or 6 times 2. They might also say something like doubled. What is 6 doubled? Or 600 doubled. You're still going to multiply it by 2 just like twice. So those are similar. How about tripled? Tripled. That would mean 6 tripled. 6, 6, and 6. Oh, we could do that by saying 6 times 3, right? 6, 3 times. Same thing. Oh, forgot one very important one. Times. 6 times 3. Well, pretty obvious. This is probably the one you're going to see the most that you need to think about for a minute. All right. Your next clue letter is E. Write the letter E down on your page with the other 2 letters you've already written down. All right, so clue words for subtraction. Subtraction. All right, what is the answer to a subtraction problem? We had sum is the answer to an addition problem. Product is the answer to a multiplication problem. Difference is the answer to a subtraction problem. So if they said, what is the difference between 11 and 6? The difference is 5. That means 11 and 6 need to be subtracted, and you come up with the difference of 5. Also, decreased. Decreased. If I decreased, oops, and also if I spelled it correctly, that would be helpful. If I decreased 11 by 6, I would get 5. 11 decreased by 6 is 5. Less than. 6 less than 11. 6 less than 11. That would be 5. Minus. We've been saying that one for many years now. 11 minus 6 is 5. Reduce. To make something smaller. So if I took 11 and I reduced it by 5, my answer would be 6. Subtract from. That one's pretty straightforward. Subtract from. If I subtract 6 from 11, I get 5. Let's see. Left. What would be left if I took 6 from 11? What is left? That's a clue word that they probably want you to subtract. Also, fewer than. Fewer than. 5 fewer than 11 is 6. And I think that's probably about what we need there. So these are your subtraction clue words. On to division. So division is actually a quick way of subtracting. I'm not going to go into that right now, but I will be showing you more about that later on. So, division, what is the answer to a division problem? We know that the sum is the answer to an addition problem. The product is an answer to a multiplication problem. The difference is the answer to a subtraction problem. And the quotient, Quotient, is the answer to a division problem. So the quotient of 30 and 6 is 5. So 30 divided by 6 is 5. The quotient is the answer to it. So some other clue words you might see would be simply equally shared, equally shared. Your next clue letter is the letter V. Write the letter V with those other letters. Let's see, split. Split. Sometimes they might say split equally. That gives you a clue that you're probably going to be dividing. Out of. Out of. That's another one. We don't see that one quite as much as you would think. Usually you're going to see something like equally, split equally, shared equally, equal parts. See that word equal a lot. All right, so these are some of our division clue words. Make sure you're writing down those clue letters too. Give this a try now. So what clue words do you see in here? By the way, your next clue letter is the letter E. Make sure you write that down with the rest of your clue letters. If you remember, double, that was one of our clue words somewhere. And speaking of somewhere, there's the word sum. Double the sum of 3 and 5. We have two different things here. If you look back on your notes, we remember that double meant to multiply, and sum is the answer to an addition problem. So what we need to do here is we need to take the sum of 3 and 5. There's the sum of 3 and 5, and we need to multiply it by what in order to double it? We need to multiply it by 2. So this is the expression. This is all you have to write for number 1. I forgot to tell you that the last one was number 1, but if you were looking up here, you would have seen that that one said number 1. This is number 2. I want you to try this one on your own on your paper. It says triple the sum of 84 and 9. How would you set that up? Notice I didn't give you the equal sign on the last one. You don't need an equal sign here. So go ahead and write the expression that you think this would make on your paper in box number 2. Okay, problem number 3. We have a couple of different words here that are clue words. We have the word difference, and we have divided by, which is actually a phrase, but those are our clue words right there. So how do we know how to set up this expression? Well, it says the difference between 15 and 7 divided by 4. The difference between 15 and 7 divided by 4. Does that mean 7 divided by 4 and then the difference of that, or what? Well, sometimes these can be a little tricky, but let's look at the very first problem we have. The first two numbers we get are the difference between 15 and 7. That's the first thing we're going to do, the difference between 15 and 7. Now, what does difference mean? If you remember back to our clue words, it meant subtraction, the difference between 15 and 7. And then what do we do with the difference between 15 and 7? We're going to divide it by 4. All right, number 4 is going to be when you do all on your own. Number 4, your problem is the difference between 145 and 97 divided by 8. Give it a shot. This one is a little bit different. This one we're going to try and figure out what words we need to use to describe this expression. Before, we've been given the words and we had to translate it into numbers. Now we're given numbers and symbols and we have to translate it back into words. So what do we have here? We have a division sign and then we have an addition sign. So starting from left to right, it looks like we have 56. And then what are we doing to 56? We're dividing it by something. Divided by, there goes my phone. Divided by what? What would we say this is? We don't have to say the word parentheses, but what are we trying to get at right here? The sum. Divided by the sum of 4 and 3. There you go. This would be the answer. 56 divided by the sum of 4 and 3. Problem number 6 will be similar. You have to come up with the words. Problem number 6. How would you translate this problem into words? Don't forget, you have all the clue words you need on your clue sheet, which is your worksheet that you've been writing on. Are you ready for a little challenge? Oh my gosh, look at all the stuff on here. However, will we figure it out? Well, we're just going to look at this like we would the order of operations. We know that we would be doing the things in the parentheses first, which would mean we'd end up with 40 divided by 8 times 15. And since at that point we would just be left with multiplication and division, because remember, this would just be the number 8, 40 divided by 8 times 15, then we would just go left to right. So the first thing we need to translate is 40 divided by, what do we call this? We can't call it 8 because we're not looking for an equal sign type of thing here. We just need to know how to describe this. So we could say 40 divided by, and then what do we have here? We have a sum by the sum of 6 and 2. The sum of 6 and 2. And then what are we doing with all of that? Multiplying it by the what? Multiplied by, what do we call this in here? The product of 5 and 3. There we go. We have translated it into words. So 40 divided by the sum of 6 and 2 multiplied by the product of 5 and 3. All right, I'm going to give you guys a challenge to work out in number 8. This is your big challenge problem. Translate this into words. We have 48 divided by 6 plus 2 times 5 plus 3, and we have some parentheses in there. How would you translate that into words? Don't forget to use the clue words that you've already written down on your paper. Good luck.